Here's what you should know about your local housing market in this week's market update. We've got a big seasonality benchmark today. Not only is it Halloween, but I just came from my daughter's Halloween parade at her school. It's only 20 minutes long, and man, my hands are still frozen. So not only do we have Halloween today, but it seems like it's the first day of where it truly feels cold and leaves all over the place and whatnot. So it's going to be really interesting to see the next few weeks if the market changes much, being that now we're into much more of what we'd call the winter market. While it's not winter yet, you really have fall. Fall market is kind of going to start petering out, and you're going to get more into that, people into that holiday mode, more into that somewhat of a hibernation mode. Sometimes that has a big effect on the local market. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think these next few weeks, as we finish up Halloween, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, start planning for those holidays more, people will get into that winter holiday mindset, and the market indicators will show us what the winter market is likely going to look like moving forward. So that being said, let's get into the stats this week for Morristown, Chatham, Madison, Harding, Morris Plains, Mendham, Chester, Bernardsville, Basking Ridge, and Randolph. We had 41 homes come on the market this week. That's a 52% increase over the prior week. Now, compared to most of the weeks we've looked at these past few months, that's probably about more typical, maybe a little bit up. We had a very low week last week, so it is nice to see a nice influx this week. We had Morristown and Township with the most number of new homes on the market at 11. Out of these, 26 were houses and 15 of them were condos or townhouses. So we are seeing a little bit higher of a mix of condos or townhouses. My prediction is we'll likely see that as we get more into the winter months. I feel like we tend to see more of the condos and townhouses take center stage, just typically because that type of demographic, they might be spending more time in warmer climates if they have a secondary home, or being cooped up inside for those cold months, decide it's time to get to a larger home. Average list price in these towns this past week was $1,036,000. The town with the highest average list price this last week was Chatham with $1,603,000. Total inventory is up ever so slightly. We now have 208 homes actively on the market in these towns. That is a 3% increase over last week. So we saw a 52% increase in new homes on the market, but only a 3% increase in inventory. What that likely means is that homes are selling as fast, if not faster. We're seeing more homes going under contract than we're seeing coming on the market. So sold homes, we saw 44 homes sell this past week. That is a 13% increase over last week. We saw a large majority of those homes being sold in Morristown and Morris Township, where we saw 13 homes sell this past week. That is a 160% increase over last week. So big influx. Out of all these towns, we saw an average list price of $1,237,000 and an average sale price of $1,270,000. So this past week, we saw homes sell for an average of 1.7% above the list price. We saw a pretty even mix amongst the towns with homes selling above list price and below list price. Once again, it seems to be a fairly good skew between the towns with train stations and the towns without. So the train towns, we're seeing pretty much across the board selling above list price, and the towns, except for Bernardsville, which sold below list price, and the towns without trains, for the most part, are selling below list price, except for Morris Plains, which has a train station, but that sold out for an average below list price. So towns where homes sold below list price: Harding, Morris Plains, Mendham, and Bernardsville. Homes sold in these towns anywhere from 1% to 10% below list price. And then on the exact flip side, we saw towns selling above list price anywhere from Chester, where they sold 0.3% above list price. That's the only town without a train line that sold above list price. Otherwise, we saw for train line towns selling 1% above list price in up until 24% above list price in Madison. Average days on market for these homes that sold, 29 days on market. That's an 8% increase over the prior week. And then under contract. Once again, under contract is the least complete data, but the most current data that we can have on the housing market. We saw 31 homes go under contract this past week. That's a 29% increase over the prior week. Most homes went under contract in Morristown and Morris Township. The average list price of homes that went under contract this last week was $946,000. And then the median days on market, 27 days on market. And that is only a 4% increase over the prior week. So I hope you guys are enjoying your Halloween and will enjoy your Halloween. It's nice that it falls on a Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, and we will continue to check in with you as we transition into the winter market and any market changes that might come along with that. So thanks for checking in with me, and I'll catch you guys again next week.